Welcome to Scorched Earth and a general reading for the sign of Capricorn, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of October. I hope you're well. I'm using the Wildwood Tarot for you today. So let's get straight on and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Capricorn, please? Came out eventually. We've got the 4 of Swords in your recent past. What was that? 9 of Swords flipped out to the side, but it's going back in because it didn't jump. Tell me about current energy for Capricorn, please. We've got the Knight of Wands showing up sideways, and I'm going to leave it like that. For those of you who haven't seen my videos before, that seems to me to be the energy. That's either the reverse of the energy or a blockage of the energy or something like that. But when cards come out sideways, it seems to me like the balance hasn't quite tipped either way yet, and so I pay attention to that. Tell me about the what's coming towards Capricorn, please. Thank you. We have the 7 of Swords. It is, yes. Sorry, they're called arrows in this deck, so it kind of threw me for a loop there for a second. We have the Judgment card, interestingly enough, at the bottom of the deck. So, decision-making time. And this isn't a minor decision, Capricorn. It seems like you've got some fairly sizable, potentially life-changing decisions ahead of you. What do we have underneath there? We've got the 3 of Swords underneath there. And I'm certainly seeing a swordy theme for you this month. Let's get some clarifiers and see what's going on. Tell me about the 4 of Swords here, please. What is this here for Capricorn? That was a positive fart of cards. I'm not going to take all of those, but I shall tell you what there is. There's the 5 of Pentacles, 3 of Wands, the Moon, the 6 of Pentacles, and the King of Wands in reverse. Very interesting. Let's put them back in, and then if they want to come out again, they can. Tell me about the 4 of Swords, please. Thank you. We have the 10 of Wands, and we have the Moon. Tell me about this Knight of Wands. Why is that here like this? We have the 9 of Swords. Interesting. And we've got 2 cards that have fallen out here. We've got the 4 of Swords again, and we've got the Page of Cups. And then tell me about this 7 of Swords, please. This is 7 of Swords here. Queen of Swords. One more, please, for Capricorn. Okay. And we've got the Queen of Wands in reverse. Queen of Cups is at the bottom of the deck, and it doesn't really feel like a surprise to me, not with these other 2 cards of Queen energy here for you. The noticeable absence is the Queen of Pentacles, and that is the Capricorn card. We've got all of these other queens coming in. But you feel very pulled in different directions to me at the moment, Capricorn. The meditation that I did before I started your reading was so intense it actually made me feel sick, and there was nothing specific that came up. It was just a feeling, and it was of nausea. Now, given the number of sword cards that we have here, we have the 4 of Swords, the 9 of Swords, the 4 of Swords, the 7 of Swords, the Queen of Swords. There's a lot going on up here mentally this month, but it feels like you've been kind of pushed. You're feeling like you've been pushed into a corner a little bit. You know, queens are receptive energy, and so with this trifecta of queens that we have here, it does feel like it's stuff that's happening to you. It's happening at you. It's the weirdest thing. I actually feel like my chest is really tight, and I feel like I've got palpitations, but I haven't got palpitations. Let's get into this. So in your recent past, you have the 4 of Swords. Now, that generally to me is a very good card. It's one that sometimes talks about taking a step back from something, or it can be about kind of mental peace. It can be about achieving a sort of a sense of healing almost, right? Because it follows on from the 3 of Swords. But here it feels a little less peaceful and a little bit more like flopping over with exhaustion, to be honest. We've got a chap there who's lying on the ground, and the 4 swords, or arrows are, as they are in this case, are kind of flanking him at all corners. Whether they've landed as he's been down on the ground, or he's just kind of flopped into the space that they've created between the 4 of them, it's hard to say. But by far the biggest image on the card is actually the butterfly at the top. Now, butterflies are symbols of change and transformation. Now, the fact that it is appearing on the card with another symbol, which is somebody flopping over with exhaustion, and then we have these 2 cards underneath of the 10 of Wands and the Moon, it makes it feel to me much more like this transformation is something that is not quite here for you yet. It's almost like it's signaling the need for a transformation rather than the fact that it's actually occurred for you. We've got mental exhaustion, and we've got, with the butterfly, I feel like a just out of reach need to change, need to adapt, need to evolve into something else. But before you go there, it seems like you have to go through here. Now, this isn't a question for you, it seems to me at this point, of physically working too hard, although because you're Capricorn you might well be doing that. It feels like a kind of mental exhaustion that is creeping up on you, Capricorn, and I'm concerned about that. It's the creeping nature of it, because there will come a point where it ceases to creep and it's just there, and suddenly you're incapacitated. And I speak to somebody who's experienced burnout, not once but several times in her life. The last time was the most catastrophic, I have to say. And it's not a state that I would wish upon anyone. The 10 of Wands here often speaks about how we make our lives harder than we need to, right? I look at the way that he's carrying those and I'm like, fucking hell, he can't even see where he's going, It's a bit like there's an easier way around to do things than that which you've picked for yourself. But because it's a 10, it indicates completion, it indicates an end, but it feels a bit more like coming to breaking point for you. And then we've got the Moon, this huge image of the Moon, which talks about the things that are hidden. Now, sometimes they are hidden simply because you do not at this point have eyes to see. And what I mean is, maybe your vision is very narrow. Perhaps you're working towards a goal. Perhaps you haven't noticed that you're in this point of exhaustion at the moment. But the Moon also talks about illusion. And I wonder if there's something illusory that is happening around you at the moment. I mean, the illusion might be the fact that you don't feel like you need to delve into the deep with yourself. I'm going to pull another card for that, because I feel, I'll go with the Triple Goddess here. I feel things are being pushed towards an inevitable conclusion, and the inevitable conclusion is that you do need to have a look and see what is going on inside of you at this point, because something's happening there. And the problem with this kind of feeling, which is one that I recognise very strongly, is that in the absence of you taking the time to do this for yourself, and I will bring in again the fact that the Queen of Pentacles is missing from the equation here. So self-care, nurturing, those kind of energies are absent from the reading. The universe tends to step in and do it for you. It tends to step in and make you stop. Tell me about this 10 of Wands and Moon card, please. We've got the 7 of Pentacles. We've got the 8 of Wands. And we've got the World. Now, there are a couple of different ways of reading this, and particularly with this Justice card on the bottom, as we have here. And the first is, 7 of Pentacles is a situation that is in some way suboptimal, right? It's not working the way that you want it to do. Now, if you've got this coming out underneath these 2 cards here, right, a need for rest, because there's a burgeoning mental exhaustion that's coming in. We've got you being completely overburdened here and possibly doing things the wrong way around. And then we have this situation here. What we've got is you labouring away at something that is isn't actually that good for you at this point. Maybe he's even flogging a dead horse, you know. But we've got here the Eight of Wands and the World cards, and it seems like there's an acceleration towards an ending here that I'm seeing. Now, whether the ending is what you are actually doing at this point, so maybe the ways that you are exerting yourself, and it does seem to be a particular kind of mental exhaustion here, Capricorn, rather than physical exhaustion, although once you get to the point you're mentally exhausted, your body just sort of gives up at the same time, you know. But with this Justice card at the bottom of the deck here, it can speak to consequences, but it can also speak to the need for balance, bringing things back into a state of balance. So if you're tipping over into mental exhaustion, things are by definition unbalanced. But I feel an increase in intensity. As I'm looking at the Eight of Wands, there the constriction is happening again. So whether it is fear of the consequences of something ending that is pushing you to work as hard as you are at something, or whether it is that this thing is going to end anyway, and it is the thought of it ending that is what you are kind of swerving and not paying attention to. The fact that the moon is here means it's time to look at the situation as it is. There's a lot of illusory energy here. There's a lot of stuff happening over the top. And I wonder if your ability to be able to recognize what is, I mean, I was going to say real, but I say that in a kind of qualified way, you know, since I don't really know what is real and what isn't. I've got a fair idea, but you know what I mean, right? That your particular version of reality is one that reflects accurately what is going on, or whether you are getting wound up and wound up and wound up into a state of almost terror, something approaching terror, even if it's quiet and understated like Capricorn usually is, about the potential for something that is coming to an end. Now, when we come into your current energy, we've got that Knight of Wands in reverse, and in the sideways presentation, which I find to be very interesting because those cards that kind of blurted out before that I put back into the deck, one of those was the King of Wands, and it was in the reverse. Now, if the King of Wands is about taking action where action is required, not wasting any energy, you know, using his wisdom and good judgment to know, you know, timing. I think the King and the Knight of Wands particularly are very good about timing. The Knight of Wands is about the immediacy of the present. Now, it means lots of things, and it can talk about thoughtlessness and recklessness and all of those things that Capricorns find, you know, completely abhorrent. But it can also talk about being very present in the moment. And it feels like a swerving here for you. It feels like you're kind of trying to look at everything other than what is right in front of you at this point. And we've got the Nine of Swords. Second time the Nine of Swords has appeared in the reading here for you, albeit I put it back in the deck the first time. This suggests to me that you're in some ways making the situation more difficult for yourself. Well, yeah, Ten of Wands, right? Because you are not perceiving things clearly. The Nine of Swords is an anomaly within the Rider-Waite Tarot because it features the swords as neither pointing up nor pointing down, and every other card that depicts a sword has it either in the upwards or downwards position. Actually, the Four of Swords has got one right at the bottom that this character is lying on, but the three others, as you can see, are up there. Now, the Nine of Swords for me is always, it always leans into this idea of perception. Things not necessarily being as bad as you think they are, or the things that you're concerned about not necessarily having a basis in reality. It's like you need to calm yourself down here just a little bit. Let me pull some more cards for this. Tell me about this Nine of Swords. We've got the Temperance card in reverse, right? Another nod to the fact that things are unbalanced at the moment and that moderation is required. And we've got this Ten of Pentacles. Now, this can relate to your business. It could relate to, you know, your work situation generally, but it could also be to do with your stability and your security. And as we know, that is something that Capricorns take very, very seriously. The problem is, it feels to me like you're almost compromising that in your refusal to look at things as they actually are right now. You feel like you're being attacked on all sides, not by physical things, not even by circumstance actually, but by sort of faceless black shapes that are just kind of coming at you here, right? It's real kind of nightmare fuel, in so much as these are symbolic of, I can see them and feel them as they're kind of battering around. They're symbolic of something that is going on inside of you that you are dreadfully frightened of at this point. And starved of the oxygen of your attention, your subconscious gets to play with it instead. The thing is, it seems to be leaking out into your conscious mind now, and you seem to me to be in a state of almost constant anxiety about, well, possibly about consequences, but certainly about what it is that you have built, what it is that you've put together. It feels like it's in danger of coming down. Now, again, I'm not sure that necessarily has a basis in reality, Capricorn. I wonder if you are digging your heels in and being a little inflexible about the way that you are seeing this situation. Like, there's a rigidity here about the thinking, and so rather than bending and swaying with the energy, what's actually happening is things are starting to crack. Tell me about this Four of Swords. There's the King of Wands. That's Four of Swords and the Wheel of Fortune. Right, we've got Leo and Sagittarius energy respectively, along with the Sagittarian card of the Knight of Wands and the Sagittarian card of the Temperance in reverse. Like, you might be dealing with the Sagittarius, and if you are, I could see why your life would be being thrown upside down, because I don't think Capricorn and Sagittarius are two of the signs that necessarily for me would rub along terribly well long term. Sagittarius has that need to be free, you know, untethered at any cost. And Capricorn likes to control their environment, and sometimes you like to control the people within your environment. But I mean, maybe this is a part of you. It might be that you have Sagittarius in your chart somewhere, and it's actually that is being activated at this point. And it's the Capricorn conscious mind that's going, holy fuck, what's going on? I'm about ready to throw everything down. And I'm terrifying myself in the process. Right? You've got to take it as it resonates to you. But this King of Wands and Wheel of Fortune combination here, underneath the Four of Swords, there's almost a sense of what's going to be is going to be. That's coming through really, really strongly. And no matter how much you worry about it or try to fight it, that's not going to change. But getting out in front of whatever is concerning you at this point seems to be the way forwards. Like I said, we've got that indecision with the Knight of Wands there, kind of sitting in the sideways presentation. But then we've got all of this worry and all of this concern, all of this anxiety about the tipping up of what you have built. I wonder if you've got a lot invested emotionally in what you have built, Capricorn. And that it is that you are concerned about. You know, it's like, for example, when I was doing my undergraduate degree, I had a lot invested in getting a first class honours degree, right? It was expected by the lecturers, it was expected by me, you know, and I even went so far as to say to my family, if I don't get a first, I won't pursue a career at the bar, because I'm obviously not good enough, right? But in my head, there was no question of the fact that I would get a first, because why wouldn't I? You know, I was smart enough and I read a lot and I was good at writing, so it was just kind of a thing. What I didn't notice at that time was quite how much of my ego was invested in that first class honours degree. And it wasn't about, you know, due reward for work, you know, put into it, although that was part of it. What I realised in reflection years later was that it was about having a piece of paper that unquestionably made me smart, at least in the eyes of other people. My ego was invested in that so hard because it was part of my public reputation. So when I missed out on a first class degree by 2 marks, I was completely devastated. And it wasn't even just because I was now going to have to stand with, what I'd said to my family was going to be the case, in so much as I was not going to pursue a career at the bar. But it was like my understanding of myself suddenly got kneecapped. Being smart wasn't enough. I was not enough. Do you see how that works? I cried for a week after that. I couldn't help it. I was completely fucking devastated. And it was only years, and I mean, like, probably, no, we're not at a decade yet, but it was probably talking 5-6 years later, before I finally twigged why it was that it had upset me so much. And it was like I needed that piece of paper so that people knew I was smart, and then they wouldn't even question it. Now, that's just an example, but I'm wondering if there's something about the situation that you are in right now, Capricorn, that is having shades of that. There is something of you that is incredibly emotionally invested in security, in the way that it looks to other people, in the presentation of it. I mean, I'm going to come back to this judgment card at the bottom of the deck. I mean, that can talk about a lot of things, but it can also talk about the act of judgment, be it by yourself exercised over a situation, or that which you feel like you're receiving from other people. And the fact that we've got 3 queens here, and queens are receptive, it certainly seems to be leaning towards that. Now, I'm not bollocking you, Capricorn, because like I said, I know exactly what that's like. I know how I pursued validation by way of bits of paper and qualifications and even possibly job titles in the past. And I have to say, I am a Capricorn ascendant, so it's kind of, it's baked into the cosmological DNA there somewhat. But I also know that it's a recipe for disaster, because you cannot get the validation that you need from these things. The fact that you're looking for it, if indeed you are, is something that will trip you up over and over again. It tends to make our egos very brittle, and when mine felt like it had been smashed to pieces at that point by the not getting the first class degree, it takes a while to build it back up again. Now, obviously some of you might say that's an absolutely ridiculous example, and yeah, it might be, but it's one that I feel is relevant here. Like, there could be something much bigger at stake with this 10 of Pentacles, but what it is that's at stake doesn't feel quite as important as what you are not aware is at stake, right? That which you feel, and it feels like it's kind of activating root chakra kind of stuff, right? This is something that threatens my safety. This is something that threatens my security, whether that is just my sense of comfort in what I've built, or, whatever it is. I mean, in some ways you feel like you're quite frightened about the future. But there's an incredible lesson here for you if you choose to take it. Because again, the King of Wands is about timing. It's about not wasting effort. If you are worrying about something that doesn't necessarily have a basis in reality, then you are absolutely, subject to a massive energy leak that needs to be plugged up. Now, the final card that you had in those 3 there is the Page of Cups. Now, this for me feels like a Pisces card. I don't know if you're dealing with a Pisces or what. It's kind of like a wild card. It doesn't have a strict astrological correspondence. But there's that sense of kind of starting at a lower level and needing to work up. And it's directly focused on your emotions at this point. It could be that there's an aspect of your emotional makeup that you are able to identify as, needing some maturing at this point. What do we have here? Right, we've got the 4 of Cups. And we've got the Page of Swords. It feels like there's the Knight of Wands at the bottom of the deck again. If you're not dealing with a Sagittarius, I'd be very surprised. Or if you're not fighting with the Sagittarius bit of your chart, potentially, you know. We've got the Four of Cups, and instantly it's triggering abandonment issues. That's how that feels there. And we've got the Page of Swords. It's like noticing that you have abandonment issues. And Page of Swords is about the, you know, the acquisition of and gathering, accruing of information, being able to put it all together. But just as those cards are there, like the way that they're going together, it's almost like the information's kind of coming up and getting ready to stab you in the back, like knife you really hard because you did not notice that they were there. Now this interestingly feeds on really well to this next card, because you've got the Seven of Swords. Now that generally, usually speaking, with, you know, the Rider-Waite deck, speaks to either taking a risk or some sort of deception. But in the Wildwood Tarot, we have a different set of key words at the bottom. I don't know if the camera's focusing on that, right? So it says insecurity at the bottom, and it feels like October is a month where all of your triggers are getting touched, if I am honest, Capricorn. Now that is a pretty uncomfortable position to be in, and particularly when you've got these three queens here in the mix too, because it feels like it's triggering right to the centre of the issue, right to the heart of the matter. You know, I said that this card was often to do with judgment of other people and of yourself, but it also talks of your judgment, the decisions that you make. And potentially the basis for the decisions, right? The Three of Swords is underneath there. Look at that flaming heart, and it says jealousy underneath. The Three of Swords is about emotional pain. So we've got cards talking about insecurity, we've got cards talking about emotional pain, and then, as is the other meaning of the Judgment card, we've got all of this rising up to the surface, being resurrected in some way. Like, this is all really challenging stuff, and I don't envy you this situation at all, particularly when it feels like you're being triggered. And the fact that the Queen of Pentacles is missing from this makes me feel like it's going to sting a little bit more than it could do. If the Queen of Pentacles was there, there's you in a very authentic form, showing up and nurturing yourself and taking care of yourself, you know, understanding that the investment needs to be in oneself first, and then everything else follows from that, you know, and the fact that you exist and you are valid, and not, your worth is not defined by what you do as a job, how much money you've got, what your status is, even necessarily you know, your status within family situations, or your status within friendship circles. But it feels like there's a clash here, and it doesn't feel malicious. This is the thing, I don't think that there's any kind of malice here. It just feels like October is a successive what's the word that I'm looking for? It's a month of successive hits, just going again and again and again, and hitting all of the deepest, most wounded parts of you. And you could try and say that people are doing this deliberately and everybody's out to get you, and have a bit of a victim complex about it. But I think if you sat with it for just a second, and I'm sure that you will, because we've got the Queen of Swords here, you'd see that there's something much, much bigger at play here. Now, this Queen of Swords is summoning the Queen of Wands, who is in the reverse. And it looks to me like the Queen of Wands is like, no fucking chance am I coming near you. Queen of Cups underneath there. Could be a fire sign who's triggering you. That's absolutely possible. But I'm back to this idea of you not quite seeing the situation clearly. You're not seeing somebody else's motivations clearly. And October, if you choose to use it that way, can be a month of kind of trying to get to the bottom of these things, and not other people, but quite why it is that you react so hard to what is triggering you. Now obviously if it's triggering you, right, you're going to react really, really hard, but triggers are your friends. That's at least my idea, because it shows you where the pain is, it shows you where the wounding is, it's showing you where things need to be healed. We've got the Nine of Swords, the King of Cups, and we've got the Ten of Cups. Nine of Swords, King of Cups, Ten of Cups there. You know, so we've got that in addition to your Ten of Pentacles. We've got your material security, your material stability, but we've also got your emotional stability and your emotional security. There's a lot of tens that are showing up for you here, and we've had the World. It seems like something's closing out, and I don't know whether you're unprepared for it, whether it seems to be leaping up on you in a sort of ambush. But whatever way it happens, that isn't the important thing. The important thing is your reactions and catching them as they are happening, because you've got an opportunity for a really deep look at parts of yourself that you generally refuse to look at, have generally refused to look at. But there's something here that what it involves is something that you feel really very strongly about. We've got the Eight of Cups at the bottom of the deck here. Whether this is people walking away from you or you walking away from people, it's something always happens, right? The Six of Swords and the Eight of Cups always come out more or less together. What we've got in the middle is the Five of Wands. Underneath that, we've got the Ten of Wands. Fuck me. And underneath that, we've got the Judgment card and the Seven of Cups. There's a lot of turmoil, it seems, this month. But it's not by way of punishment. It's by way of showing you what needs healing. I feel that very, very strongly. But it's also possibly showing you where you have made your life hard unintentionally, but nevertheless still managed it. Because whether you like it or not, something is drawing to a close, and it requires a different kind of response from you than the one that it feels you're going to automatically come out with. Now, obviously, you are free to do exactly what you want. But if you were to ask my advice, I feel like getting out of the echo chamber of your own head would be a really good place to start. In so much as open dialogue and open communication is something that would work very well, as long as you don't stab it in the foot first. This is not exactly a situation that needs managing, more it is you that needs managing here, Capricorn. Because if you go off at the deep end, it's almost like you accelerate this for yourself. Whereas if you can try and kind of catch yourself and observe, right? Not just the situation and other people that are involved, but actually observe yourself and see what is coming up for you. There's potential for some peace to come. But it looks like it's all just kind of hitting at the same time. Like you're already out of spoons because of what we're seeing going on here. But it's just getting amplified and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this seems to be the thing that is tipping you over the edge, although it's not deliberate and it's not trying to scythe you down. But nevertheless, you're getting triggered to fuck about it. It's an opportunity to do it a different way. That's what's being open to you. And to get to know yourself a little bit better and hopefully bring that Queen of Pentacles into play in future. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. If this has resonated with you at all, I'm going over to Vimeo now to do an extended and look into October specifically a little deeper. See if we can't give you some advice and help you navigate that. in a slightly easier way. So if you'd like to join me over there, you're very, very welcome. I would invite you to Patreon, but I am actually in the process of winding down the Patreon in order to move to a different platform. So maybe it's just hold off for this month. Yeah, but if neither of those are your bag, that's absolutely fine. Just try not to get rigid this month. The more you can kind of flow, the more that you can be open to hearing things, rather listening to things, and then paying attention to what is coming up inside of you, the easier this month will be for you. But I think if you lock down, it's going to be quite challenging. Okay, I'll leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.